Hello and welcome to a new video here on NIO Source. Yesterday, NIO published their second quarter earnings results. So let's take a closer look at them. I want to mention that the Chinese yuan has lost some of its value to the US dollar over the last months, and that this leads to smaller numbers after converting them from RMB into US dollar. So keep in mind that a weaker yuan lets the report look worse than it actually is. Revenue. As we know, NIO delivered 20,059 vehicles in the second quarter this year, including 3,681 ES8, 9,914 ES6, 4,715 EC6, and 6,749 ET7, representing a decrease of 2.8% from Q1 2022. The 20,059 delivered vehicles achieved a sales revenue of $1.428 billion, representing an increase of 3.5% to Q1 2022. In RMB, revenue is actually higher compared to the previous quarter, but as mentioned, in US dollar it is lower than in the previous quarter. With the other sales revenue of $107.7 million, NIO achieved a total revenue of $1.536 billion, representing an increase of 3.9% compared to the last quarter. So how is it looking for the expenses? Cost of sales were at $1.336 billion, being 5.8% higher than in the previous quarter. R&D expenses and selling, general and administrative expenses also increased by 13.3% and 22% from Q1. If we look at the margins, they are even lower than the ones out of Q1. The vehicle margin was at 16.7%. The decrease attributed to the increased battery cost per unit, which was partially offset by favorable changes in sales mix of the ET7. The gross margin was at only 13%. It was as low as the gross margin of Q3 2020. The reason being the lower vehicle margin and the expanded investment in the power and service network. Loss from operations and net loss. NIO's loss from operations increased in Q2 to $424.8 million by 30%. Net loss of NIO in Q2 was at $411.7 million, also increasing by a whopping 54.7%. So what's my opinion on Q2 earnings? As I already suspected, revenue has come in higher than in the previous quarter, even though NIO delivered less vehicles during the quarter. The only point I underestimated was the weaker yuan. Nevertheless, the actual revenue was in between the both cases I set up. Still, this quarter's earnings showed me to pay more attention to the RMB US dollar price. In terms of revenue, NIO has beaten the market's estimates by $120 million, so nothing to complain about here. In Q2, NIO had higher expenses related to higher battery prices and higher R&D expenses, resulting in a higher loss from operations and net loss. What we need to see for sure are rising margins. NIO said that they are already working on margins to go back up. The EPS was missed by 2 cents, with an EPS of negative 20 cents. How is it looking in terms of Q3 guidance? NIO is expecting a delivery number of 31 to 33,000 cars in Q2 2022, and with it a total revenue between $1.918 billion and $2.03 billion. So NIO should be delivering between 10,271 and 12,271 vehicles in September. This is a small taste of the growth that is still on its way in terms of NIO. After the earnings release, there was the conference call, where a lot of topics were discussed. I will list up some of the more interesting infos given. For Q4, William Li said that there is a lot of pressure on NIO to deliver in Q4, and so he said that every month in Q4 will be a new record delivery month. In Q4, the 2 NIO factories will be running, and that the NIO Park factory will only be producing the NIO ET5. William Li also mentioned that the company is very confident in the ET5 and that the first batch of ET5 has already been finished. In terms of chips, he said that the US chip ban will have no impact for NIO chips. For COVID, there will be smaller impacts, but NIO will have them under control. During the last months, the battery swap stations were helping to stabilize the power grid. 100 swap stations were feeding the grid with power, while 60% of the swap stations did only charge off peak hours. Pre-market, the shares dropped about 6% after the earnings released, but then quickly rose up to the positive again. What are your thoughts about the Q2 earnings of NIO? Let me know in the comments. As always, I wish you guys a nice day.